with Sitecore 7. The primary reason would be speed, performance. So we've got different ways of querying in Sitecore. We've got the standard XPath style querying, which goes, it translates your query to SQL and it goes to the database. And it's very good on limited data sets. We've got something called fast queries, which is I guess a variation on the theme. Still goes to the Sitecore database. And one of the limitations of these ways of querying the Sitecore content is that you need to perceive the data as a hierarchy. And when you use Sitecore search, you get rid of this hierarchical view on your data. So you get flat lists, and they are very fast to access and query. There's also some convenience features. So if you want to do faceting or paging or some of the things where you'd have to provide some of that infrastructure yourself. Previously, we put that in as part of the API. Also, of course, with searching, you can get relevance ranking. Something, if you're picking stuff out of a SQL server, it's difficult to rank it in a way that makes sense. With the search providers that we have, it comes quite naturally. So, first of all, the anatomy of a search query. So I'll be doing a couple of demos, and I think we'll just do them as we go along. There are three parts of a search query with the Sitecore API, and that will be a context. We have a search context. Use that to manage locking and stuff like that. When you have a Lucene index, it's not that important for Solr, but you don't when you do the search, you don't really see whether you're doing it against a Solr or a Lucene index. You just see the search API. So you have a search context, and inside with the search context, you can do link queries. So the entire search language is abstracted away. Previously, you would have used Lucene objects to construct your query, or just send in text and pass that. But we have a very nice, fluent way of doing it now. And when you've set up your queries, of course, you get search results. And that was my illustration of the anatomy of a search. Do you like it? I've been doing it with my little boy, so. Okay. A search context is provided by an index. So, I said we're not going to talk about how we get the indexes, but let's just say that if you install Sitecore 7, you get a couple of indexes for free. They're configured out of the box. And we're going to be using one of those in today's demo, so we're not going to set up anything elaborate. It'll, as I said, manage locking or other things, I'm sure, as well. And we put the search context into a user to ensure disposal. I'll show you that in a minute. So it is important that the search context is properly disposed when you're done with it to prevent any problems. So, right, I'll get on my unicycle and show you some stuff that I've been cooking up. There we go. Okay.
Use the wheel.
Yes, I'll use the scroll wheel. Sorry. I'll use it down here. Whoop. Is that a bit much? Can you see? So today, basically what I've done is I've created a MVC solution, and I've deployed it on a clean Sitecore 7 website. I'm just going to drag that in here as well. I put in one custom route, and that is our search here. So you can download the code afterwards and have a look at what I've done. And I've been following best practice and just piled everything into one controller. So, well, that's the sort of the way we have to do it when we do it on the train, and don't have much time for it. Okay. So we're going to look at the anatomy of a search, and I think I have a piece of code here. Okay. Can you all see that? I can almost see it. So, first part of it is that we get hold of an index. I'm going to do this in every method here, and I'm sure you could do it in a more efficient way, but this is basically what you do. You go to the Content Search Manager, and you grab hold of a named index. This is one of the ones that ship with Sitecore, and you can set up your own, but I will just work with this one today. As I said, next step is to set up a context and make sure that it's disposed of. You could create one of these contexts and then just call dispose on it at a later stage, but this is the safe way to do it. Okay, back to the slides. A link query. So the interface for constructing your queries is done through something called an iQueryable, and you've probably come across it before, perhaps even without noticing. But this is how we've implemented the queries. When you get hold of one of these iQueryables, you do it with a generic, and you have to specify the sort of result type that you want to get out. So what is the type of the documents I'm expecting to get out of the index? And then Sitecore will map whatever comes out of the index into these POCOs that you have specified. And then on the iQueryable, you can chain where statements, filters, order by, facets, etc. Back to the code, and that's what we have in line 3 here. So, a very simple query. This is the iQueryable that I was talking about. And then you just tag on whatever your statement is. Very elegant, don't you think?
Is there a chance to change to the original colors?
No, no chance.
It's very bad. It's very bad for camera.
Yes, all the code is on GitHub as usual.
Okay, cool.
Yes, you don't have to take pictures. You just take pictures of me instead. So,
the font is blurring with background. It's darker than
yes,
font.
I'm sorry. Can everyone see the text?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's on GitHub, so no need for cameras. Note. I'll do differently next time. So, one thing I guess that's worth talking about is this bit here, where we are actually constructing the query. And you can see that it's inside the where statement, you put something called a predicate, and it's a lambda expression. Is this baffling or confusing to anyone? Megan nods, yes. So basically what we're saying here is we're getting hold of an iQueryable of search result item, and this is the default Sitecore ships with. You can subclass this search result item and put on your own properties and map them to things in the index. And then when you do your lambda expressions, you can choose fields that is on this type. So, and in the last step, in the result, Sitecore will map. It'll run the query for you against the provider that you've specified in config, and then it'll map the fields to the POCO objects. All right. So if you have any questions, just shout out. Okay, next thing I wanted to talk about was querying versus filtering. I think this is, I guess, an important distinction. I wasn't quite sure what the point was to start off with, because both the filter and a query will work in the same way. You can add predicates inside it, and then it'll come up with a query. The important distinction is that filters will just sift out results without affecting the weight. But if you do a query, every statement inside the query will add weight to the result. And let's bring up the demo site and have a look at this. The very first example that we saw will just bring us back all the results that it can find. You can see there's loads of them. So that's everything that matches well, it has folder in the name. And if we have a look here, we can see that all of our matches have folder in the name. That's very cool. I guess the next example would be the query and filter, which is a bit more elaborate. Just going to dial down the size a smidgen. Okay. So if we just run the code as is, go one back, do query and filter. You can see we get results, and they have a weight. So each result has been evaluated by the search engine, and it'll say, well, this document looks to be more important than the one down here. And let's have a look at the query that we're actually running. We're saying that the name either contains media or FDA, and you can see the first one here contains both, so that's making it more important than the one that's just called media. So what we could do to change this, we could try as an experiment, just comment this out, and then you can see in my comment here, I say filter to only show items with folder in the name. So I'm going to do like this. So now my criteria is that the name contains either media or FDA, but it must contain folder. And just, oh dear, I lost part of my menu up here. That's not it. Right, we'll just do a publish to the site, and we'll reload. It takes a little while, then it's going to come back. And you can see we've now filtered down to only the things with folder in the name. Now I'm going to do this one more time, and now the subtlety comes into play. We're going to do like this, say filter that out, and then I'm going to run a query that has a requirement that the name contains either media or FDA, and then on the query I'm also going to put the contains. So the difference here is I'm not using a filter to put a requirement on the name contains folder, I'm putting it in the query, so this will actually have weight. So the net result should be the same, but the scores should change. Oh, we'll do the deploy again. So, very subtle. Did anyone see that little trick? This number here changed and this number here changed. So basically by having the requirement on name equals folder, changed the scores, so the relevance scores. So this becomes important if you want to do something where you add a filter. For instance, for faceting, you may not want to add weight to the scoring, but just filter out results. So I have tried to come up with examples where the screen doesn't stay the same, but it is a subtle difference I was trying to point out here, and I hope that you all caught that. Okay, so in this link interface for searching, we've introduced a number of extension methods, and I've given you some examples here where the Q represents an iQueryable, and you can see you could do a wildcard match where you can use star or question mark to either denote a number of characters or a single character. You can do a fuzzy search, where you're sort of searching in the proximity of something called hello. You can specify how similar the words should be. So if you're expecting people not to be able to spell, you can use that. You can do regular expressions against the fields in the index. Again, I've done a regular expression that should match hello. And, actually, is capital D, is that right? Or did I just make that up?
Capital D is a digit.
Oh, that wasn't what I meant. I meant the other one. That's brilliant. Is it lowercase d?
That would be W.
W, well, there we go. It was late on the train yesterday. I shall fix that straight away. I guess the last bit here, well, I didn't say what it would be. This is just an example. It's out of context from okay. The last example for boost here is if you want to boost on a specific field, saying if we do a match on the name field is more important than if we do a match on the file extension field or something like that. So you can add boost in there. And boost is an extension method that will tag on to anything. One of the little things that could trick you is that if you just do an iQueryable and you use IntelliSense, boost will come up as a valid thing to call on it. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. But that's just one thing to keep in mind. Boost goes inside your query. That's the key takeaway from that. And then we have something like contains, which will basically do a form of wildcard for you. Well, I guess you all know what a contains method does. If we look at some of the examples I did for this, I'll just go here and say fuzzy. We did something fuzzy. So you can see in my fuzzy code, I am doing a like, just like in the slide, and doing a proximity of 0.5. I have no idea how to interpret the proximity. Perhaps if there's a Lucene expert amongst us, I know this will be specific to the sort of provider you're using. I think 0.5 is approximately half the word matches. And I did do a demo of this as well. So if you go back up here and perhaps have a look at the... Oh, it's not here. So, if we do a fuzzy search for, let's say, standard, there's loads of things called standard in the database. You can see we get loads of fields back. If I botch my spelling and say STD, ARD comes back with, well, both start and standard, it's sort of trying to guess where I'm going with this. And interesting, when you do fuzzy searches, you don't get any weight. And this is down to how the Lucene provider is how Lucene works. So it's not a mistake. That's just how it works. Even though I guess it doesn't make much sense to talk about performance on the data set that we're using here. In a standard master database coming straight out of the box, there's approximately 2,500 items. So even if you go through the database, it's not going to be a huge load on the machine. But you do get quite a consistent performance when going through, for instance, Lucene, and the dataset grows, and you add on more criteria on your queries. So, I did also do one for the regex. And I hope that you've noticed that all of my queries look, all of my methods here look boringly the same. So they get hold of an index, start using with a context, and then get hold of the queryable, then try and do some interrogation on that, and then this is actually interesting. Get results. So if you know a link to object, you know that you can specify the entire link statement. You'll chain together your all of your statement, and then only once you actually do a to list on it or start iterating it, it will run off and try and gather the result. And you get the same behavior here from Sitecore, that only the minute where you actually say to list or get results, it will run off to the index and try and gather the information. Get results is an extension method, and it will give you back an object containing hits, total results, and facet results. I guess in a web forms world, you could just do your data binding at approximately this point, but in MVC, you want to perhaps send this in as a model, and that's what I'm doing here. And if you do that, then the result set is being used outside the using statement, and by that time all of the references inside the result object have evaporated. So that's the reasoning for my little shifting of values from one place to another. I don't know if you can see, I put the to list on here to make sure that it actually runs the expression and gives me some values back. Cool. That's a little thing for you to put on your notepad. Remember this. I was going to talk about regex. Sorry, I lost track here. So yeah, I'm just going to say I'm using the matches method. That's what you use when you want to do a regular expression. Just passing in an ID. There should be a better name for that. So where it's going to be on? It's on there. On GitHub. The address will come at the end of the presentation. So if we go back one, I have one here for regular expression matching, and we can hopefully when it comes back start adding on some. And you can see I've been playing with this today, so we could search for hello. There's no hello in the database, but come on, give me a regular expression. What should we try? What would be interesting?
Email address.
Second?
Email address. Email address.
Well, let's do something with regex. Let's put some requirements on here. Let's say D. Can you do like hang on D like this? Oh, I didn't mean to put in. I meant to use the curly brackets. So there needs to be 2 D's and address. Perhaps not a very interesting example, but it shows you put regex in and it's run against the index. And perhaps this would be a good time to show you when you're using the search interface, it will generate some log files for you, and one of them is called the search log. I'm just going to try and bring it in here. I've just opened it. It lives together with the Sitecore log files. And you can see these are the last couple of queries that we've been doing. We did something where we said we had a proximity filter on standard and then some random queries, and then we create for hello and for an address, and then you can see we're sending in. So this is actually being what we're passing to Lucene. So none of this is done in .NET. It's all done on the, well, it is, but on the Lucene side of the fence. Okay, well, I'll just put this to the side. I think we're going to return to this later. Any questions so far?
How could you pass in DMS parameters into the boost?
Pardon?
How could you bring in DMS parameters into the boost?
I guess you will explain that to me in your presentation, Anthony.
I need to run my presentation, come on.
What about phrase search
Phrase search.
with a slop?
I guess the like is with a slop. That's the fuzzy one.
So if you put multiple characters there, multiple words.
We'll try it. So I get what you mean. So you want to.
We have a distance between
Yeah.
words.
I'll get an answer to you.
Just whether
No. I'm pretty sure it can be done, but I have to check up on it. I know that we can adjust it in the index when we are indexing stuff, so we can say whether we want it
they
or
are
not.
set.
Yeah. Alright. It's an interesting point because most of the stuff that you index, for instance the name here, you think of it as a string saying standard value, but once it's put into the index, it actually becomes two tokens, so standard and value. So if you're searching for it, you may be surprised by the sort of results you're getting back. If you, for instance, say, I want a regular expression and I want everything where the name ends with standard, then you may actually get names that starts with standard because the token ends with standard. So depending on whether or not your field is tokenized, and we're going to talk about this when we do the indexing one in a month or so, you will get results that may surprise you. Or may not, if you've been paying attention today. So, a very handy thing is the paths property sitting on the search result item. Basically, this will give you a IEnumerable of Sitecore IDs, telling you the entire ancestors or self. Did I say that right? Ancestors or self? Yeah. So you can actually, by feeding in a contains and some ID, you can specify a subtree that you want to search in. So even though I start out by saying, well, we are not really searching on a hierarchical structure, you can limit on something that it represents the hierarchical structure, which is very useful. So you could imagine that you say, I want to search the news section for something, or I want to search only the content. A classic would be that you're searching for, let's say I want to search for all items that are based on the news article template. And then you get the standard values as part of it. Of course, not very nice. But if you just search the entire tree, then you get the standard values item as well, because it's based on that template. So you could avoid that by saying, I want to search for all things based on the news article template in the content part of the tree. Any questions on that particular aspect? You're very well behaved tonight, okay. I have also done an example of this. I will just do like this, say paths. So this example again, get hold of an index, create a search context, get hold of an iQueryable that we can start building our query against. And actually you could say that it's a bit of a cheat that I say result here, because what actually happens is that the wheres here, they return, can you see that on the screen, they return an iQueryable. So that's how you chain your expression, you keep chaining onto the iQueryable. So it's not like the last one just returns a result set. They all return an iQueryable. And actually only down here it's evaluated. Okay, interesting point. When you chain the wheres, of course it's interpreted as an AND operation. If you have to do very complicated predicates, you can use a predicate builder. But for most cases this will suffice. So let's say that depending on some condition, I want to tag on an additional where or filter or something like that. You can cut this over in multiple parts. You don't have to do it all in one. I'll show you that in a little while. But here's the example of how you would limit to the system root. So in this search I'm saying, well, let's only search under Sitecore system. And of course, system will be included here, so the actual item system. And everything that contains the word standard. Okay, let's see how it looks. How do you like my search UI?
Responsive.
This is done with Bootstrap 3. I'm with all the cool kids on that one. Got stickers for my skateboard. Paths. So again, for this example, I just put in the path for each of them, so you can see that we get a very short list of stuff called something with standard, and they all reside inside the system part of the tree. All right. Hope that makes sense. So, again, one of my lovely... Do you like the pictures? I've done them on my iPad whilst holding my son who's 20 months. So that's why they're not that accurate. I didn't know that we had extra marketing funds for this event, so I'm doing this sort of thing. I promise next time it'll all be downloaded from one of those image services. Okay, yes, we have got a couple of extension methods, and some of them you know, skip and take. They're part of Link by default. And we've made a nice little wrapper of that called page. Well, surprise, surprise. If you look at the two examples, you can see exactly what page will do, more or less. I don't think there's many more lines of code inside it, but it will, skip a number of pages and then take the page size. So, yeah. Also, how would you apply ordering? So if you don't want your results ordered by relevance, which is the default, again, the example would be, I have a listing of news, they need to be ordered by the date. You could do that again, and here you can see there's a slight variation on the theme where it's not a predicate per se, I guess. What is this called? It's called some selector. It doesn't matter, you can see what it's doing. You're using a lambda expression to point out which property that you want to order by. And again, this property is a property on the strong type that you've specified for your iQueryable. And Sitecore will then map that strong type to a field in the index. Let's have a look at paging. So, paged results. Here was actually the first time I needed to employ this getting the results set. And the interesting thing here is that I get the total search results. So the hits collection will give me 10 actual documents, but the search result, total search results will give me the entire count so without the skip and take, which actually means that you can do a pager. You could do this in two sets, so you could have done the same query twice, once to get the result and once to get a count. But this makes it a little bit more efficient. And I just want to show you my example for it. I know that I'm just getting a bit boring with this because they all look more or less the same. But this one here, oh, quick, no controller called page results. Oh dear. Quick, help.
Plants on the floor.
Oh, it's just a spelling mistake. What happened? Okay, well, I'm just going to take a... Oh. Okay, so this page I spent a lot of energy on, mostly sifting through the documentation for Bootstrap to find out how to do this, so I could page between my results. I think that looks very nice. Of course, the only thing that happens is that this number here falls into the belly of our method. Oh, where did it go? Page results. So if there's no value on the page number, then we'll just redirect to page 0. Otherwise, we'll do the query and then say what page number, whatever was put in. Hey, that's very elegant, I think. Was there a question there? No? Okay. Any questions to this? Oh, I could show you the, actually I could show you just, if you're interested, my view for this. If you look at this project on GitHub and you say, well, that's not very Sitecore MVC, then, because it does look just like a regular MVC project, I would contest that. It is a Sitecore MVC project. So, where did we go? Page result. So look at the pagination here. How simple can that be? Do you remember the days of doing a list view and then having a pager control and hooking it up with an object? I can't even remember what the name was. When you do it in web forms, if you use the Microsoft page controls, this is a bit of a nightmare. But hey, that was quite simple to do. Just iterate over the total results divided by the size of the page, and then I'll put a link. I hope someone will find that valuable. Okay, so next on the agenda, facets. I recently heard someone call it a parametric search, and I actually had to look that up because I've always heard of facets, but it is also called a parametric search according to Wikipedia. So, and I hope that you like my little illustration, because you see on a gem like this, you have facets. So that's a connection. Okay. I know I couldn't come up with anything that would represent the facet, so this is what that's what I got. Okay, it's very easy to get facet results. You basically just have to tag on a facet on method on the iQueryable, and you can to get the facet categories. You can either say get facets directly on the end of your query, or you can look in the facets property on your search result. And let's have a look at that. And I think for this example, I also promised you something a little bit extra. Where did my thing go? Here we are. And let's look at facets. Oh, yes. So, as you can see, for this example, I sort of changed my my wording a bit. So I'm getting hold of an iQueryable, and then directly on that, I'm starting to tag on my conditions. And you can see I say I want the name to contain either media or FDA, and I want to facet on language and on template name. So basically, I'll get a result, the same result set as before, and then I'll get 2 facet categories, each with a number of results that I can drill down into. Sitecore also supports something called pivot facets. Pivot facets. What do you call it? Pivot pivot facets, which is like a hierarchical facet. So where you can specify, example, you would say genre, author, price, and then you would get the full decision tree on genres, and then all of the authors within each of the genres, and then within each of the authors you get all of the price options. So I'll just show you if we do this search here against or we'll do the same search, and then we'll do some faceting on that. So I put two facets on there, one being template name and one being language. And I also just put them in the table here so we could see that for the FDA media folder, we actually get 4 results. We get 1 for each language. That's, I guess, also an important part that we'll cover when we do the indexing, that you get for each of the versions. So you get 1 in English, 1 in Japanese. So if we wanted just to do English, we could say facet on language, and this is the facet category, and these are the individual facet values with the aggregate counts. So it says that for this search there was 12 results in each language. So I could say, well, I only want to see the Danish ones, and of course the English ones, and then it says, well, there's 12 in English. If we look at the template name, you can see it's a bit more varied. We've got 1 branch folder, 2 normal folders, so we could say I only want to see the things that are based on a template. So where the template is template. That's very cool. Well, I think it's very cool. I was just sitting there enjoying it for a little second. And I guess this also here in my method, it's a little bit more elaborate than the other ones. Get hold of an index, based on the index create a search context, start building my iQueryable, try and read the facets out of the query string. Don't need to look at that. It's basically just rips the query string apart and then puts it into a variable that I can then iterate over. And then for each of the facets I will apply a filter. So I'm now tacking on additional querying. So the query hasn't been executed yet, we're still building it up. And this is one of the places where I had a minor breakdown, because initially I just did this. So queryable, filter, go. And you can do that, that's fine, but that's not going to add a filter to queryable. This is just going to return a new iQueryable with a filter attached, and that return value is not being used, so that's just going into dev null. So what I really want to do is replace my old queryable with the new one with filter tagged onto it. So that's an important one to remember if you need to sort of split your query building up into multiple steps. Then I basically just hand it over to the view and display it. And then I have some embarrassing logic in my view in my view that sort of creates the drop downs. Do you want to see that? Yes. Let him walk the plank. Okay, well, I'm not going to cheat you out of that. No, I wasn't quite happy about it, but as I said, I was doing it on the train very late yesterday. You know, have a look at all of this jazz in here. Clearly, you should by now be thinking, God damn it, do a model. I'm using the view back, I'm creating stuff, and so if you find yourself doing this sort of stuff, think refactor tomorrow morning. And I think if any of you have some spare time, you should fork my repo and clean it up. That was not my proudest moment. Okay, well now all the dirty secrets are out, so I won't be getting any critique on that, I hope. So, we did look at results along the way, and there's a get results method that you can tag onto your iQueryable that will give you this result object. It has three important things on there. Total search results, the facets being brought back, or the facet categories being brought back by your facet on, and then the hits contains an enumerable of documents of the type that you, an enumerable of scores and documents based on the type that you've specified in your iQueryable. That's a long-winded way of saying this is where your results are. And we've seen that a couple of times. Does anyone want to see one more time how that looks? No. You want more beer and pizza. Okay, well, you can't have that because I have a slide about easy mistakes. Well, I don't know if they're easy, they're mistakes. I was going to title this Stuff I Did Wrong. Yes. Even though I had just been going through this as Module 9 of our new Sitecore developer course with classroom students, when I sat down on my own machine and wanted to get hold of an index, I said, oh, what was it? I needed to get hold of the, was it the search manager, and then just get an index on that. And Visual Studio came up with a squiggly line saying, I don't know this, and I just pressed Control dot and did some IntelliHelp and just chose the first one without really thinking. So that was the Sitecore search namespace, and that's of course where the old, where the previous search API resides. The one you really want is called content search. That's all the nice stuff from Sitecore 7. And the search manager is called Content Search Manager, not Search Manager. So, as I mentioned previously, things like boost, wildcard, and probably also a couple of other methods can actually be tagged onto the iQueryable chain without getting any compilation errors. It just doesn't make any sense. Yes. That was an interesting one, point 3 here. So, iQueryable is an interface that is part of System Link. And there are some extension methods that will work on an iQueryable, and there are some that will work on an enumerable. And they are slightly different. It's marginal. And a big thanks to Nathaniel Mann for just putting me onto this one. That was a good find. I'll just show you. This is getting really nerdy. So, do you want to see nerdy stuff?
Yeah.
That's one person. Yay! Go for it. Okay. There we are. And we'll just find my. Here we are. So, have a look at these two things here. We've got one thing that is an expression of a func of a search item and a bool. I'll call that expression. And basically, I can use a lambda to create that. I can use the exact same lambda and map it into a func of a search item of a bool. So without the expression. So if you were to pass around your lambda expressions, you would use one of these. And with one you are passing around an expression tree, and with one you are passing around a func. And iQueryable is implementing IEnumerable, so the where can apply to both of them depending on what lambda expression you're putting in. So when you're putting in a normal lambda expression, it'll default to this and give you the expression tree, which is what we need in Sitecore 7. But you could do like this and then have it become an IEnumerable. So what do you think will happen if it's mapping to an IEnumerable rather than an iQueryable? Don't go there. I can see heads exploding. The difference is that IEnumerable is linked to object. So basically, it'll say, go to the index, give me everything in there, and put it into memory, and now let's start querying it. So imagine what that will do to your search performance. Any ideas?
Crap, no good.
Not good, they say down here. That's true. So I did a little bit of testing around it, and actually on a small data set like this, I got nearly no difference in this marginal. Sometimes it even won when I loaded everything into memory. And it had it was a big difference whether I did one or the other first. But you could clearly see that if you're sending in a func and not an expression of a func, it'll pull out everything from the scene and then start working on it. So with 2,500 items, no big problem. Not running on a laptop with an SSD, happy days. Start putting in some serious numbers, and then we'll talk about it. So that was my nerdy bit. I don't know, do you want to see the difference in the query? We can do that. I did put it in the... we'll just use the search log for this as well. The search log is quite handy that you can actually see, you can go and see what actually goes on in behind the scenes. So when you've constructed your link and your filter doesn't apply because you're not chaining it correctly, then it's as simple as pulling up this log here. And here is the last two queries that was run. It's done 1926, that's a very short time ago. You can see one says everything where name is standard, and one says everything where everything is anything. So if we go back to the code, over here you can see that in the first one I'm just doing a normal expression, and in the second one I'm doing the exact same expression. This here is copy-paste of this bit here. But the difference is whether you're passing in a func or a expression of a func. So that was a little bit of a discovery journey. Okay. And as I said, when you dispose of the search context, the hits property on your search result will go poof. And will not be available anymore. As I said, if you're doing web forms, you'll probably have all of your business logic cooked in the button click event anyway, and you'll data bind here, there, and everywhere. Probably you'll do that in very close proximity to your actual search, so may not be a problem. But if you have separated your search into some sort of service, then it could be that using or that search context is disposed before you actually want to use the hits. Oh yeah, and I tried to explain this earlier. The last bullet point here, I said forgetting that field values are often tokenized. It's not a question of forgetting it, it's just some fields are tokenized and some fields will be keywords in your index, and that has an impact on how you search for them. So even though we map to a strongly typed object for a search result, it's not the same as an item. It's not like we have a string with the full name. It may be different. It'll eliminate if it goes through the standard analyzer, it'll get rid of punctuation and all sorts of clever stuff. It'll lowercase everything. So I guess all of these points would be better covered in the indexing session that I'm sort of I almost promised it now, but we'll probably do one.
So Kern, is there a solution to that problem that you're going to go over in the indexing session?
Well, you can choose whether you want to keyword analyze or
You can duplicate the field and use a keyword analyzer.
yeah, you can, and you can have multiple names.
The sorting doesn't apply with multi-field using anywhere. So you should have only one field for sorting. Because if you use a
I mean, to solve that specific problem, I came across that as well already.
I would say it's. I don't see this as a problem because you have the option of doing it either way. It's something to be aware of, and if you do free text search, then it'll probably not be as big a problem for you. But remember that this is not a Google necessarily. This is still we're searching in items. So I see it more as a nifty way. You know, I don't see necessarily the prime candidate of this being site search. It can be, but also things like creating lists of news, products, and so on, where it's not necessarily I type something in and then something comes out. I think there is a trend of sites these days that are search-based sites without actually having a search box, so they rely on providing search results that you drill into. You select a category, you get a list, you use facets, and so on and so on and so on. So I see many applications for this.
One of the easy situation that comes up quite often, I think, is that you want to sort by name. And it might be paginated over thousands of results.
It could be if you were ordering by name, and if it's a tokenized field, then you will get a surprise.
Yeah.
So why is S before A or something like that?
I'm not a Lucene expert, but
No?
the solution is to then to have another copy of the name and not tokenize it.
Yep.
Okay.
And remember, you don't have to. That would be one solution, I guess. That's probably what I would reach for. And you can index, however you want. And you don't need to store the name multiple times. So there's options there.
Okay, thanks.
But it is something that you could. Well, and Anthony wants to 5 minutes. We haven't even started on the questions yet. Okay, let's have some questions. Any more questions? Well, if there's no more questions, I'll just point you in the direction of 2 links. On my GitHub, I have created a public repo for you, usergroup.searching7. And I've also put in a link in the slides that will be circulated for the search and indexing guide for Sitecore 7 that has a lot of nifty information in there.
Does the search manager actually already put out noise keywords, noise words from search?
Stop words?
Yes.
We'll cover that in the indexing session.
So if you're trying to search for something like "and" in a tokenized field, that would still be going to end in a minute.
Actually, I don't know.
Alright.
Have a custom analysis. You have a custom analysis.
Yeah, well, it's what you have to do.
Are there any more questions?